Bargain.
When we come off of me?
Yeah.
Easy as one, two, three. I'm talking
We don't look like
about it's on everybody's mind. What makes us one of a kind? I'm talking about love. It doesn't matter.
See, look how good we look.
Hello, everybody. This is Lee.
And this is Paul.
From coupledom.com, here on Relationship Rehab on Mingled Media TV.
Yay!
How is everybody on this fine Friday? Hello there, Cougar Mama. Okay, wait. One side of my head looks wrong.
Uh-oh.
What the? No, wrong side.
No.
You know, the hair. So important.
That's right. And
Plus,
it
it's
looks
all
perfect.
dyed.
Oh, dyed? No, this is her natural color.
Yes, because last week when I saw, like, just the still of the playback, I could just see all of my gray. And I'm like, holy crap. It's like, you know, the color's not great on this, but damn, it picks up all those things.
That color's good on this.
Yeah. Anyway, were you doing the next? Yes, we were! How did you know?
We're talking about sex today.
And that's how I got woken up this morning, so Paul's committed to his craft.
That's right.
That's all I have to say.
Yes, I am an artiste.
Any excuse.
Right.
So much to talk about. See, today we're leaving for Orlando to go to the travel blogger conference in Orlando.
Yes.
Messy hair. Not that messy. It's just, you know, it's fine.
Actually, it's not a travel blogger conference.
No, it's the International Travel Conference, and then they've attached like a little blogger element to it, and like made it super cheap for all the bloggers to go. So
we're trying to get tickets. Anywhere.
Yeah, we don't care.
Anything.
We don't care. It's like, you know, send us to Indonesia.
Okay.
I don't care. Send me. Send me to Canada.
Okay.
I'd love to. I love Canada. Canada's a wonderful place. I've never been to the east coast of Canada. Only the west coast.
I'm the other way.
And he's the other way around.
Right.
So we would like to.
The east coast.
Not that I'd want to go to the middle. I just want to go to one of the. I would
didn't
like
know
to
it
go,
had a middle.
It does.
Kind of like the United States.
Yeah.
Sorry, people in the middle.
Whole middle of the country.
Yeah.
Gone.
Right.
They were watching and they said, forget it.
That's it. Goodbye.
That's the way it works.
We love you.
Yeah. And let's see. We come back on Sunday from this thing, like really late at night. And so we'll be like home by like 1 in the morning on Sunday. And then next Thursday we have to go back to Orlando to go to a reception and a party thing for Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Like the whole country.
They want
us to go to their party thingy. So we figure, hey, I've got family in Puerto Rico. I actually do have family in Puerto Rico. Which I don't think is uncommon. I mean, it's like my family's Cuban. A lot of Cubans, when they left Cuba, instead of coming to the United States, went to Puerto Rico. And
this is where that whole middle of the country again. They're looking at.
They're going, what the hell is she talking about? Yeah.
What's
you
that?
know, and the thing is that might sound insulting, but I've actually lived that. I actually lived it with, and not his parents, mind you, but his parents' family.
Yeah.
And sitting in their living room in Indiana, and getting grilled for like 2.5 hours on what is Cuba and how is it that you could talk so well, and and
stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean stuff that makes you cry, especially like people who have any concept of the world. So speaking of which, because this is a very important thing, on Coupledom, we talk about relationships. We talk about your relationship in your marriage, your parenting, dating, but also your relationship with yourself, relationship with the world around you. These are all important. It's like if you have a problem in your marriage, you're going to see that in everything that you do. You know, you're going to have issues with your workmates and things like that. And it's the way that you relate. And, you know, an interesting thing came up with relationships this week when Fidel Castro took back his idea that communism works in Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that might seem very political, but for people who are Cuban, who have a very messed up relationship with their country of origin, that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big deal because what it's caused, instead of causing a relief, what it's caused is incredible anger. And, you know, that idea of like, oh, now you say it, you know?
I mean, just face it, they left their country because of this idea.
Yeah,
and now
exactly.
He's doing oh, sorry.
My bad, you know, that, and, you know, one of the reasons I'm bringing it up is because we have in this country right now a lot of polarization, and you know, relationships are being torn because of these polarizations. And you know, it's your relationship to where you live. I mean, right now, you know, some people a lot of people feel very uncomfortable about living in this country. Some people feel uncomfortable because of other people who are saying really stupid things and incendiary, revolutionary things like, you know, we want to take back America and whatever. And then those people talking about taking back America and their relationship with the country and where they live is really, I mean, it's very unhealthy right now. You know, in general, to live in the United States. You know, it's not the economy, trust me. It's the ambient feeling of just being comfortable where you live. Mm-hmm. And, you know, either you're upset about, you know, the nutbag, you know, that showed up to Washington a few weeks ago, not that I have an opinion, or you're one of the nutbags. You know, nobody's happy about being here. So it is a relationship issue. It is a feeling of unease. And when you feel unease, that just like, kind of like that anxiety dissipates throughout every relationship you have. So be aware of that. Mm-hmm. And it's very important. It's like, if you have to, stop watching the news. We stopped watching the news a million years ago. The only thing with what we do with the news is like we skim. We'll look at, you know, like the Google News, and then we'll kind of skim articles, and like occasionally we'll have to read a few of them. Mm-hmm. You know, like the Koran burning dipshit from Florida. So proud. Another reason why we're leaving Florida.
Right.
And yeah, that one we had to be. I mean, because right there, that's a relationship issue too. See, people don't see things like that. I see relationship stuff. I mean, that's the same kind of guy that you know, instead of divorcing his wife, he would just abuse her for 50 years.
Yes, right.
You know, I mean, seriously, I could actually break it down psychologically that would be that man's profile.
Generally speaking, if you can't relate, if you can't relate to one person, then you can't relate to all of the people. Right,
and the same thing goes backwards too. Right. If you can't relate to all of the people, then it's very difficult for you to relate to one person. Mm-hmm. And it just happens to be the way that you're programmed. I mean, people like that are programmed all or nothing.
Right. Yeah.
You're either with me or against me. The idea of acceptance is so foreign to them. It, you know, might as well be saying, you know,
yeah,
you know, eat a baby. I don't know. I mean, those people, I'm not sure if they don't eat babies, but
I think you did.
I think you did.
Yeah, I think
ate a baby.
Yeah.
But you know, that's relationship stuff, you know, and then you could like extrapolate from there. I mean, this is all that therapists do, you know. It's like, it's just simple, like 1 + 1 = 2. So if you go from there and then you move to like sex, it all relates.
Right.
Because that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about sex, not just politics.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about politics. I want to talk about sex.
I like you know,
sex.
I've heard. I got the memo.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have such a messed up society when it comes to sex. And it's all the same thing that we're already talking about.
Yeah, it's actually kind of sad that we really can't talk about sex without talking about politics.
Yeah. I mean, that's really the bottom line. Sex has been so politicized in this country that we have developed almost a subversive personality when it comes to sex. Someone keeps leaving and joining and leaving and joining. Either you're here or not.
I'm sure last time we saw her, she didn't have electricity, so...
it's almost as if, it's almost as if you're living here. Because that's what we go through all the time. We had that happen to us at Party City the other day.
Oh, yeah.
We're in Party City with all 3 kids, and all of a sudden, lights out. That's normal. Welcome to Florida. Anyway, so
our nation and sex.
Our nation and sex. And this is the reason why we can't have a good conversation about sex without bringing up politics is that everything we do nowadays, especially in this country, is almost either legislated, some sort of opinion has been made about it, or it's frowned upon. I mean, like with this whole conversation that we're having right now, most people wouldn't like it.
Yeah.
Okay? Because we are saying sex. And it's like, that's a private thing. You know what? Let's get really clear. And I'm just going to give you the bottom line, what coupledom stands for and what coupledom believes. There's no privacy anymore. That's long gone. And if you really are that hung up on your privacy, you've got serious paranoid tendencies. If you own a computer, if you have a credit card, there's no such thing as privacy anymore. And, if you have a Facebook page, shut the hell up. Okay? There's no such thing as privacy anymore. And then instead of fighting it, instead of like, oh, no, don't go into my private life, learn to accept it. Learn to know that this is the way that it is, and it's actually a healthier way of being. And once we all accept it, because that's the whole schizophrenia we have about privacy too. Privacy and sex are, almost like, neck and neck in the same ring, in the same race here. If we all accepted that it doesn't exist, not sex obviously, but privacy. Then we'd all feel a lot more comfortable and probably gain more privacy. With sex, if we all admitted that we have sex, that we like sex, that it's okay to have sex, then
we want to have sex when we're not.
Then it would be a lot healthier for people. But no, instead we live these like double lives, and that's something that has been created by the society we live in. And especially the United States of America. It's not, you don't see the same sexual repression in Europe. And we find that, as Americans, to be completely absurd. Like, the way that, it's funny because, in Europe, nudity is not a big deal.
Right.
However, certain things can't be said on TV. But nudity and sex is not a bad thing for TV. You just can't say certain things.
Right.
Yeah, they walk around naked there, but it's
nasty.
The thing is that there's a certain beauty about it. That the sexual hangups that we have are not translated around the world.
Right.
And that's a very important thing, because with our sexual hangups, we create neurosis. And with neurosis, we create paranoia. With paranoia, we're creating serious psychological dysfunction. And this is why so many people have sexual hang-ups. This is why so many people in the United States have these quirky fetishes. Fetishism is a big deal here. In other countries, they don't see it that way.
Right.
They don't have, when you start looking at the fact that the highest rate, and I'm not talking about third world countries. I'm talking about generally first world countries. The highest rape quotients are here in the United States. Yeah. More serial killers. We produce more serial killers, more rapists, and all of these things.
Right.
And many of the rapists are also serial rapists. So I have a little pet theory that it has mostly to do with the fact that we are very schizophrenic when it comes to sex. It's like, oh, everybody has to want it behind closed doors, but once you leave the bedroom, do not mention it. That's just nasty.
Right.
You know, I don't want to know TMI and all that other crap.
Right.
Why?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, realize, we're not saying that you should be sharing your sex,
love.
yes, your love with everybody around. That is not the message here. But the amount of shame that people feel, the amount of violation, let's see, other of the nasty things that people, the bad things that people feel when we talk about sex.
Well, yeah, shame, violation.
Shame is a big one. Violation.
Left out of the conversation. Because some people, because they were raised just so incredibly sheltered, wouldn't even know how to begin to discuss it.
True.
You know, we live in a society where we have so much information available to us, but so few people learn anything about sex.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is, even though people buy the books, they don't read them.
By the way, folks, chat with us, please. We're talking about sex. We would like to get the input this way. That was bad.
That was funny.
Oh, that was funny, okay.
That wasn't bad, but notice how he said that was bad. That was funny.
Already.
That wasn't.
I got the blush going.
Yeah, but that is a function of being raised in this, you know, puritanical caca society. Right. You know, it's not. I mean, it's funny. It's not.
Go in the comments.
It's just funny, you know. I mean, it shouldn't be something shameful, but we do feel shame.
Right.
When, hello, Linda Latina, how are you? It's funny when, what I find shameful is how sick it is. Okay, what I find shameful is you watch any sitcom, TV show out there. It is nothing, and I'm not talking just adult TV, like primetime stuff. I'm talking about kid stuff too. Any like live action, we've pretty much kept the cartoons kind of clean. But any live action, Disney, hello, I'm sorry, I'm calling you out, Disney. Hannah Montana, iCarly, all these other stupid ass shows that
even Wizards of Waverly Place.
Oh yeah, they have so much sexual innuendo. They talk about, you know, the first time. You know, they talk about being a good kisser or a bad kisser. I'm sorry, but at the age of 13, I had no frickin' clue what was good or bad. I just knew that it was, and it was weird. But I liked it. And, you know, and what do? We don't see it as, we think it's innocent. You know, as adults, most adults let their children watch these shows. Yeah, at their, dude, I learned about sex when I was 12 from my cousin Terry, and I thought she was lying. Okay, that's how innocent I was at that age. So 12-ish, you know. I think I found out about sex after I had gotten my period. I'm almost positive that was the case. My mother never told me diddly about sex. I mean, no.
Needless to say, we're not promoting that one either.
Yeah. The Hidden Life in America. You know, honestly, wait a minute. Isn't that the one where the girl's pregnant and, you know, it's like they're teenagers? I learned in sex ed. We went to Catholic school. Guess how much sex ed we got? Not much.
Yeah, don't have it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got the biological, but, you know, that is just a smidge of what kids need to learn about sex. And, you know, I think that in our case, our daughter is very lucky that she has a mom. Being that dad has never mentioned anything.
What? I've mentioned it. Don't do it.
But, you know, it is...
Hey, I'm the one who coined the, you can't say yes unless you can say no. I said that. I coined that.
No, I think you coined it after I said it.
No, I said that.
Really?
Oh yeah, then I walked away.
Well, no, that is one of the lessons we told our daughter, is that you don't get to say. My told me that French kissing was kissing my father. He's
I like that one.
Okay.
I may have to use
He's
that.
a French descent too, so yeah, when I kiss him. I remember as a child, the most we would get to see...
The monkey thumping on National Geographic.
That's funny.
That's a good way.
Yeah, well, that's one way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And we're all, related.
Mm-hmm.
My parents would only, peck. They would never kiss. I didn't know. And my father would make me close my eyes. Because my parents, they're Latin. So they really had no concept of ratings for movies. So we would be watching any movie, that was out, back in the 70s. I mean, like The Exorcist.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember The Longest Yard, The Exorcist. Movies that I found out later on that were R-rated. My sister and I were watching them with them. But whenever there was a kissing scene or anything remotely sexual, my dad would say, close your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
That was the big censorship for him. Close your eyes. Because you could hear everything. Because you kind of assume, when they're doing that something was going to happen.
Yeah.
But, that was his big thing. Close your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a household where, we were very Latin. We went to bed at 11 with my parents.
Mm-hmm.
Not with them,
Yeah.
mind you. But,
At the same time.
at the same time, they didn't know from bedtime. That was very American. Things like that. Peanut butter, very American. We never had that kind of stuff. So. Yeah, your mother would cover your eyes. No, my dad would just say, cierra los ojos. So we would be,
Close your eyes.
close your eyes.
Yeah.
So that's what I was raised with. That was and never any concept of, I knew that my parents were sexual only because my father was vocal in innuendo. And my mother would say things that I couldn't understand because she told me she was a virgin. My mother. And no, her name isn't Mary. She would tell me and my sister that she was a virgin. And she would tell it very proudly. Show us pictures of when she got married and how virginal she was. Now, mind you, we didn't know about sex. Or I didn't know about sex during that time. My sister's 6 years older than me, so I have no idea when she learned about it. But she would tell us about how virginal she was. And the biggest feather in her cap is the fact that she came back from her honeymoon still a virgin because she had gotten her period during the honeymoon.
Wow.
And, she was too afraid or whatever. They were on a 2-week honeymoon and still she came back a virgin, which means that she just, no.
Wow.
Yeah. That's my mom, because she was raised in such a up family that this is how, her father was a sicko and her mother was a prude. So, which way was she going to go? My guess is that she's some sort of hellcat in bed, but she just tells us she's a prude. You know what I mean? So
I always knew that my parents were sexual, which I don't know how healthy that is or not. But there was never
definitely
any doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
My parents were kind of party animals, and there was part of that. So I always knew. Yeah, they gave them.
Okay, they were loud behind the closed doors. Now, my parents were never. The only time things when they closed their door and you heard the lock.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I got to.
Yeah, but being loud, no.
Yeah.
They weren't. Which is, that's one of the things that we learned kind of early on. When we became parents, we can't make too much noise, but our daughter's hard of hearing.
Yeah.
And at night we would take out her hearing
She's blind
aids.
and hard of hearing.
So hell, we could do it right in front of her.
Yeah. Not directly in front of her, a little off to the side, and we're good.
Peripheral vision.
Yeah. But now we have the two boys, and they've got splendid eyesight and splendid hearing.
They can hear a pin drop. What are you doing?
So, by way of parents need to talk to their kids, yes, we do agree with that. But what is the message?
What is the message? Okay. I've been, in my past, I used to do parenting classes. I've worked with sexual abuse a lot in my career. And one of the things I always tell parents is that you need to be telling your kids about sex their whole lives.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not something that you sit them down at a certain age, like, 10, 11, 12, and say, hey, this goes into this, and that's how it's done.
Right.
That's not the important part. Yeah, I mean, that is the least important part of the sex talk,
right.
is the mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Because guess what? Mechanics are easy.
Mm-hmm.
The mechanics are like, no duh. Of course. I mean, we were built, I don't know if you read our post yesterday on coupledom.com, about, sex is good. It doesn't matter. There's no such thing as bad sex, just people not connected and not invested.
Right.
And that's pretty much proven. We were built to have orgasm, and, God was so perfect that he, built the bodies and built the orgasm system such that if we, fit together, it should happen automatically. I mean, not automatically, but it takes a little while, warm up and things like that.
But it's supposed to be
and
good.
It's been the layers of crap that we learned and the ways that we've been socialized that has made sex complicated.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be. It really is very simple. So teaching kids mechanics is like, and then you put the food in your mouth. It's like, no shit, of course you do.
Right.
It's easy. That's kind of nasty. See? It doesn't matter. Anything could be sexual because that's the society we've become.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, you start when they're little. You teach them about their bodies. This is their sex talk. This is how their sexual education begins.
Mm-hmm.
You talk to them about their bodies, about how their bodies are their own, and you teach them their boundaries about their own bodies.
Right.
You are already talking to your kids about sex when you do that. You tell them that good touch and bad touch, that's sex talk. If we don't teach our kids that, then they are more likely to get abused.
Right. And realize, okay, we'll probably get back to safety later on, but what you're really teaching them is how to be safe.
Right.
Because that's what makes good sex.
Right. Because if you don't feel safe, you're never going to come.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's just the way that it is. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is because your brain kind of like shuts down that part of your body. You aren't supposed to be thinking about sex when you should be running away.
Right.
I mean, that is in your parasympathetic and your sympathetic brain. I mean, we're talking like your primordial brain, like the stem. And here's that little nub on the top. And that's what's controlling it. We're not talking about all of the nice gray matter on the top. We're talking about a little stump in the middle. The thing that makes us breathe in and out. The thing that keeps our heart rate normal and our blood pressure regular. And the temperature, at an even keel. That's the same part of your brain that's telling you that you can come now or you can't.
Right.
And, it's like you're ready. You have reached the excitement level where you could have an orgasm, and then they send the endorphins and all that good stuff out, or it doesn't happen. Now, the gray matter on the top does influence it, because if you're never relaxed enough to be able to get to just being, basic and animal, then,
Right. Then if you're in fight and flight.
Yeah, exactly. Then you're just going to, I can't think, I got to think about, the taxes and all that other crap. And
so by teaching your kids about their bodies and how to be safe within their body, then what you're actually doing is teaching them how to have good sex. And I know that sounds like a scary, scary concept.
And disgusting. It's like, I don't want my kid ever to. But then it's like, if you think about it as an adult and you take away all the nasty socialization that we have, that, we should never think about our kids having sex. If you wanted one thing for your kid in relationship, it's like, is to have a healthy sex life. Because you know that when you have good sex, that's a nice thing. That's a happy thing.
And you think about it too. It's like, okay, I want grandkids. Oh, but I don't want my kid to have sex. That's you. It's like, so you want them to go picking children? What?
Stealing them like gypsies.
Right. You want them to have a good relationship, but
Thank
a platonic one.
Yeah, exactly.
A good platonic. You want them to be a nun.
We want them to have separate beds with their spouse, just like Lucy and Ricky did. I just don't get it. And then and it's funny because I've had this conversation with him. We have a 17-year-old daughter, and so it's like the idea of, listen, you're either going to decide that at some point in her life she's going to be a sexual being, and you're going to have to decide whether or not you want her to be a happy sexual being. And
then I run away.
And then he runs away. But I've taken it upon myself to talk to her and to share things with her. You know, that, I mean, I don't get graphic. I mean, honestly, we never talk about mechanics at all. What we're talking about is the emotional side of it. And she's 17 now, so a lot of it is talking about, you know, you don't get to say yes until you learn how to say no, how to keep yourself safe, you know, how to wait for the connection, things like that. And it's like, these are all part of the sex talk that we don't get because we are so scared of sharing this information, this private information, that we don't want anything to leak out. And oh, they'll figure that out on the streets, and oh, they'll figure that out on their own. It's like, no, they don't. And if you think about how incredibly clueless you were when you first became sexually active, and how incredibly clueless you were at relationship, you could go ahead and blame your parents for that one. I give you all the right. Go ahead and blame your parents for that one. That, you know, it's like they did not prepare you for that. Yes, they prepared you to look both ways before you cross the street, but they never told you, never to invest yourself in someone that wasn't willing to commit to you. Something as simple as that. But that's all part of the relationship sex talk that we should be giving our kids. This is the scary statistics. Like 76% of all sex talks, okay, this is according to the kids and to the parents, completely neglect talking about sexually transmitted diseases. 76%. That's from the CDA. That's the CDC. This is 76% of parents don't even bother mentioning wear a condom. That's as simple as that. And 1/3 of all new HIV reported cases are for people under 22.
Yeah.
1/3.
Yeah.
In this nation. Okay? We don't talk about HIV anymore. We don't talk about, you know, it's not such a big deal anymore. You know, a lot of people think that you could actually live with HIV and people don't even die from HIV anymore. People are dying every day of HIV, of AIDS. We don't even acknowledge it anymore because we, you know, it's like we know people who've lived 20-something years with HIV.
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah, it's better. Yeah, it's better. It's not cured yet.
Except that it's, you know, getting our children.
Yeah, and we're okay with that apparently because, well, how did they get it? Well, because we never bothered telling them to wear a condom.
Right.
And we never bothered telling them that this is a serious disease.
Yeah. We'll vaccinate them against the flu because we don't want them to get, you know, the sniffles. But we won't tell them how to, you know, stay away from AIDS.
Or, let's do one of my pet peeves. Mothers who refuse to get their daughters the Gardasil vaccine to prevent HPV. HPV, the human, papillomavirus. That is known to cause 71 types of cervical cancer. Well, I don't even know how to respond to that one. You know, I know women with HPV. I know several women with HPV. I do not have HPV. But then again, I was a late bloomer and I didn't have sex until I met this guy. So the chances are very rare that I'll ever get HPV. You know, unless he goes screwing around.
Wasn't planning on it.
Yeah, and I'm not planning on it. So I probably would never have HPV. The chances of me getting cervical cancer are so minute because I've only had one sexual partner. And because there's no, whatever. I can't think that way for my own daughter. I can't think that way. I don't want her to be that way. I mean, that's not my call for her.
Right.
You know, to decide whether or not, I don't want her to be a hoe, but at the same time, I don't necessarily delude myself into thinking that she's going to find the man of her dreams at 22 and then in less than a year get married with him. Yeah. Get married to him.
It's like, ultimately, it's not our decision. it's decision. Like coming up with a career choice. It's also not our decision.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's like people hear us talking this way, we're like, oh my God, you guys are so enlightened.
Oh, God,
it's really not the enlightened thing. It's just knowing that you really have, it's really admitting defeat.
Yeah, you can only bash your head against that same wall over and over again before you kind of figure out that it's only giving you a headache and the wall isn't moving.
And the reality is that a lot of those beliefs that we create for ourselves are really based on the fact that you don't love your kid unconditionally.
Ooh.
Sorry, that's mean, isn't it? That is true. It's like accepting them for who they are, and that doesn't mean that you just go, oh, okay, well, they're free spirits, whatever. No, I mean, we have a long story that we could tell, but we're not going to do it on a web series because it's too private for her, not for us.
Right.
But, over a drink or two, I'll tell the story. I don't give a crap. But,
yes, you take us out.
Yeah. But, it's accepting who they are. So, of course, when it became available, and as soon as she was old enough, our daughter has been vaccinated with Gardasil. My understanding was very painful, and that is apparently a normal thing. That the actual vaccine is actually painful. It's like, what is it, 3 shots that she had to get?
Something like that. And we're not talking excruciating pain, though.
It's like it's kind of like a tetanus shot. It kind of stays sore for a long time, for like a week. Her arm was a little sore. But the point is to know that as a parent, I've done as much as I could. That I could go, okay, this is something I could check off the list. It's like, I know that I vaccinated her against chickenpox. She'll never get chickenpox. And if she does, it's going to be very mild. Right. And I know that she'll never get cervical cancer. And I never had, that wasn't something that was available when I was a kid. And it's not available to me now because I'm too old for it. But the idea that if I could have done that, I know my mother would have shut up for everything. So, I mean...
But you've also done the talk, so now check that off. If she's going to be a hoe, she's going to be a hoe with her eyes open.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like...
There's nothing worse than a surprise hoe.
How many men have house
Yeah, right. The kind that wake up going, did I just do something wrong? No. And, no, nothing worse than that.
Yeah, I mean, that, we have, all sorts of friends, and, I mean, I've actually had a couple of my friends have the "I'm more of a hoe than you are" argument, which probably one of the funniest. That was during one of our bitches weekend. One of the funniest conversations I've ever been privy to. I mean, because I couldn't even play. He's like one guy. I couldn't even play the game. But I don't think I've laughed that hard in my entire life because the stuff that they were arguing about, like counting off guys and God, good times. But
does oral sex count?
Yeah, does oral sex count? One of my favorite ones. It's the counting, and then wait a minute, does oral sex count? And of course the yes, of course it counts. Oh Lord, I gotta give her a call. Anyway, very funny. I'm going to just be with a smile on my face for a little while. That was a funny conversation. And then, the best part was like 20 minutes after the conversation, wait, another one. And, it's like you forgot somebody. You see, now that's a hoe. You forget somebody, and then I know.
Hello, blessing.
Hello there. Then, we know somebody else who's, good Lord, triple digit kind of.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just freaky because that one just was oblivious.
Yeah, that's kind of the surprise.
That obliviousness is something you don't want your child to have.
No.
That's someone who's numbed out to sex. And that's sad.
So, do we want to move from teaching children to actually teaching ourselves? Well, adults.
Okay.
Like, we're having sex. Well, not currently.
No.
But, in general.
Yes. Well, you don't know what's happening below here. He's just really good. And Blessing's gone. Why? Because her name is Blessing, and we were talking about sex. That's okay, Blessing. It's scary. Blame your parents.
So go ahead. What we were talking about, where we are.
Good sex and bad sex. And we mentioned it a little while ago. What they have found in studies, when they research sex, is what separates good sex from bad sex is usually the connection. between the people.
Mm-hmm.
There are very few techniques that would make that happen automatically. You know, if there's a connection between people, then couples are more willing and open to doing things.
And generally, like we said, technique it has really very little to do with technique because, God designed things properly. So.
I mean,
for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, it's like if you are completely without any sense of rhythm, that might cause a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost a natural.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that is cool about blessing is back. Okay, so we've stopped talking about that. One of the cool things about being a therapist, when you go to school, you have to take sex classes, and the sex classes, I don't know if it's cool, but it's one of those weird things that you end up being in classes where sex is dissected and made very clinical. So you're actually watching movies of people having sex, and it's not porn.
No.
It's so not porn. It's
because
very natural.
And there's different
and
developmental stages, shall we say.
And I mean,
like
it's like
old people sex.
Oh. Still the stuff of nightmares. But you're watching it, and you're watching it with a clinical eye, and you're watching it, because usually there's some narrator talking over it, and pointing out certain things, and for some reason they were all filmed like in the 70s, so it's like shag carpet and some cabin in like the redwoods in California, and but the interesting thing is, the point of that is, that you find that they weren't showing you, this master.
Mm-hmm.
They were just showing regular people, and they weren't showing you this person who's got a degree in sexology. You're showing two regular people. Saggy people, or they'd show younger people, but they were all hippies because, like I said, 70s.
Yeah, right.
So they'd all have long hair and armpit hair and stuff like that. So it was kind of, I'm sorry, just have certain, It
was
beliefs.
very natural looking. Yeah.
But the point was, looking at sex clinically, you realize very early on that there's no special thing to sex.
Mm-hmm.
There is no, you should try it this way or you should do it this way. In certain respects, yes, but it's really about willingness.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not willing to do it, if you're not willing to open up to doing things, then you're never going to be able to enjoy it fully. When I've gotten, couples into therapy and we're talking about sex, and that always happens, because when you have a couple in therapy, you always have to talk about sex, because it's really one of the prime indicators of how your marriage is going.
Mm-hmm.
If you get a couple in there with no medical issues, and one of the first session, I will always ask them separately, how's your sex life? How often do you have sex? And if they give you different answers and you have an idea what's going on,
they go, oh my God, I can't talk about that.
Yeah, if they completely shut you out, right. If sex is something that's happening every once in a while,
or if they really get into the conversation,
or if hey, no, this is great, blah blah blah. Then you know that, okay, I'm working with a couple that is having some issues that we could tweak out, but this isn't going to be any long term. Maybe you need to refer to a psychiatrist kind of couple. Mm-hmm. I had we had friends. Had is the operative term. That were just weird, and we met them during trainings, and in the trainings, their psychological things that they're therapeutic,
right?
And they had shared, one of their issues was the fact that they were into threesomes and stuff like that. And that's funny, because we've talked about sex for 44 minutes, and we haven't mentioned like one of the more popular things today.
That really is,
because
that was very common in our trainings.
It's like all these people. Oh yeah, no, and then we had a threesome, and then we've had threesomes, several times, and it has been my experience that couples who engage in threesomes, and I'm just going to put it out like that, rarely stay together.
Yeah.
Because we're just not built for that, people. It's just that simple way, we're not that, it's funny that we live in this schizophrenic society, but we think that we can get away with doing that, and it's okay. They're, in the swinging culture where they swap partners and all that other kind of stuff, there are such specific rules to them. And usually swingers don't last more than a few years, because then their marriage falls apart and you can't swing by yourself.
Right.
A woman can, man can't.
Not so much.
No, not so much nothing. They can't, because it's against the rules for their society. Once again, go back to all the 70s movies I used to watch in school. And still to this day, you could read this kind of research in the academic papers out there. But the point being, emotionally, we can't handle those things.
Even what is it, like group dynamic theory?
Yeah.
Those things dealing with how more than two people interact with each other, it defies that.
Right.
It doesn't really work because there's always
one person who's left out.
Right.
And that's really the bottom line.
And it moves and that kind of stuff. It gets very complicated.
It's so anyway, the point that I'm making is we had this couple that were friends of ours, and they had this thing in the past where they had a threesome, and it became like this regular thing, and they both fell in love with this woman, blah blah blah, long story short. So after our therapy stuff, we were still friendly with each other, and one day I get a call from the woman, and she's talking because she wanted to get pregnant, and she asked me, she goes, well, I hope I'm not being too personal, but, and this is funny coming from a person who basically knew our lives, because we were in therapy, in a group therapy session. How often would you guys have sex when you wanted to get pregnant? I'm like, well, that's not really a personal question, It's like
that's something you can read in an article,
in a post.
In a post, yeah. Definitely for us.
I don't think I've written it in a post, but I mean, I'm like, well, when we were trying to get pregnant, it's like I monitored. I mean, I'm telling you the exact conversation. Well, I monitored my ovulation, and when I knew that I was ovulating, we'd have sex like little bunnies for like a few days, and then she's like, what do you mean? But like a few times a day. For like 2 or 3 days.
Realize we did trying to have children the same way we do everything else. We worked it. We worked it hard. So it became, it's like, okay, ovulating, then,
But you never knew about that when we actually had the last two.
But the last two, nothing.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I was more in tune of what was going on.
Yeah.
And it was really just a shot in the dark, because I only tried once. For both.
Right.
You just like that. Anyway, so what I'm saying, and so I'm like, okay, so you guys want to have a kid? So she goes, yeah, because the doctor's telling us that we haven't gotten pregnant because we're not doing it enough. I'm like, well, if you don't mind me asking, because since she had been so kind to, if you don't mind,
yeah.
And then she goes, I go, so how often do you guys do it? She goes, well, a couple times a month. And I'm like, really? So that's from her. Now, her husband was actually a closer friend of mine. So when I talked to him about it, he's like, well, if we do it once a month, that would be an amazing month. So how are you supposed to get pregnant during that time? Now, we'd already... Right, and we'd already speculated that they were not healthy.
Right.
And they weren't going to make it.
They're not married anymore.
They're not married anymore. Called it.
Yeah, right.
That one I did call. Actually, that was funny because we did have a pool on that one.
Yeah, to see how long they last. Okay,
that's really bad, really bad
person.
But it was funny while we were doing it. But the point is, stay within each other, and I mean, it's like make this work. Don't go anywhere else. It doesn't work.
Right.
It does not work. Just doesn't work. Just don't do it. Period.
Right. Which is going to actually bring me back to the whole safety thing.
Yes.
Now, again, the key to good sex is safety, is being safe, feeling safe, knowing that you're safe. That's why you're teaching all of these things to your children, to yourself, etc. Right. That's why connection is so important, etc.
Right.
If you bring in a third person, just from group dynamics, you can't be completely safe. It's difficult because you always got that extra person, whoever it is,
that you need to attend to.
Right? Who,
whether it is emotionally or just to know that they fit in. It's like stopping what you're doing. Are you okay?
Yeah. Right.
I don't have time for that. I'm there to get. It's like, how do you concentrate on your needs and your partner's needs, and then go, oh, okay, you. It's kind of like okay, well, give me a second. I'm gonna go deal with the baby, and then I'll be right back to you. I mean, it's not unlike that. That is basically the same concept, except for you're not dealing with a baby, you're dealing with another adult.
Yeah, you get it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, so from our post today, the do's and don'ts of sex. Number one, talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Couples with bad sex don't talk about sex.
Right.
Period. They just feel so uncomfortable, they don't do it.
Mm-hmm. Men and women are a little bit different. We're not a lot different, but we're a little bit different. And one of the differences comes in the area of arousal. Women tend to be aroused in their mind first. See, the thing is, okay, guys have outies. Okay?
I'm sorry, it just had the funniest thought.
And, psychologically, it's actually kind of interesting because an arousing thought will give a man an erection. And the erection will cause more arousing thoughts. So we kind of have this cycle going, and that's, I guess, why some people will consider us pigs and that kind of stuff, because it's, we have this physical indicator that you really can't ignore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of like a meat thermometer.
Exactly. Whereas women, actually, in studies, can have the physical reaction of arousal and not know that they are aroused.
Mm-hmm.
So it needs to happen in the mind.
And usually, because we are so disconnected from our sexuality and our sensuality, a lot of women misconstrue it for either excitement, frustration, and it's like they don't know how to act. And when we talk about women like all pissed off and whatever, bitching or whatever, it's like she needs to get laid. We're not off the mark most of the time, and I know that feminists everywhere are going, I can't believe you're saying that. I'm saying it because scientifically it's true. Women don't get it unless women are very in tune with their bodies and immediately know when they're becoming aroused, because things arouse us throughout the day. Scents, number one thing that a scent can arouse us. Usually women don't figure that out, and what they do is instead of going to find sex, they eat. Okay? Because they misconstrue arousal for hunger. Okay, that's how disconnected women are usually from their bodies. And
it makes sense because who's teaching them? I hate to say it, but on that one, guys, the piggishness of guys actually means that you are passing down at least some information about sex, even if it's not 100% accurate. It's still, the conversations about the penis are a lot. Whereas the conversations about female sexual arousal are what?
Nothing.
Yeah.
It's like the most they talk about is like, oh, she's wet. Or the wetness. That has nothing to do with it. I mean, let's be honest, the older you get, the less wet you get. And so that's not even an indicator anymore,
Right.
So, and I just, realized, it's like, why is she chubby? Oh, well, I misunderstood. Didn't realize I wanted to have sex. I thought I was hungry.
So talk about it.
Yeah, talk about it. Number two, don't get so uptight about it. If you're not perfect at it, that's okay. It doesn't have to be a home run every single time. And the thing is that once you stop thinking that it has to be a home run all the time, it usually will be a home run every time.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I would do with couples is actually tell them not to have sex. Or I would tell them, have sex, but don't come. And just doing that, I mean, just giving them instructions like that would, one, when I would tell them not to have sex, they would go and do it anywhere and everywhere they could, which is hilarious because that's authority issues, and I love that. Secondly, when I would tell them not to come, it just happened. I don't know what happened. We couldn't help themselves because you took off the pressure, and there's no need to have pressure about it. It's just sex.
Right. And you know what? We got less than 5 minutes left.
I know, and I'm almost done. Relax. Don't assume anything. Ask questions in bed. Do you like it like this? Do you not like it like this? Does it bother you if I want to do it like this? One of the, we've heard like horror stories. I mean, I've heard horror stories, and I've shared it with him because he's my husband. Things like, husbands won't masturbate their wives because they don't want them to get used to it. They want them to be able to come only with a penis. And sorry, that doesn't work. It doesn't work for most women. Most women don't work that way. Direct clitoral stimulation works with most women. See that's the nasty part of the show. Woohoo! I said the words. She said clitoris. I don't say clitoris.
No.
I say very British. Clitoris. What was I gonna? I said clitoris and I just couldn't talk anymore. What else? Oh, things like women who won't get on top. What the hell?
Right. See, the asking part is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Be talking about it.
It's half the foreplay right there.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like, hey, do you want to do it? Okay, fine. That's already got me halfway going there.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't assume anything. Experiment, but that doesn't mean bring somebody into the bedroom.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean, hurting each other.
It doesn't necessarily need toys and that kind of stuff. Experiment is, what's this feel like? How's this thing?
Does that work for you?
Does that work for you?
That's like that would be like the first few years of us being together.
Definitely.
And he knows me. He knows what I like. He knows what I don't like. I know what he likes. Anyway, and this is why we've been married for almost 22. Wow, almost 22 years.
I know, and we've been having sex like all of it.
Let's see, how long we've been having sex? 22 years. Yes, we didn't have it until we got married.
Close.
We were close.
Don't want to make it
almost.
Sound like,
yeah, I know. Like we were. No. We didn't win completely.
Right. No. We already decided to get married. Right.
Yes. Oh yeah. No, we were. You don't remember?
I'm checking.
I said it. We were like a week off from our engagement encounter at the church.
Right. Yeah.
That we were kicked out of. Long story. Anyway, so okay. What are we talking about next week?
We're going to be at the thingy, so we're going to take.
We're going to be doing a weird show next week. We're going to be talking about travel. We're going to be talking about travel that you should be doing for your relationship.
Yeah.
I think it's it's like I think it's so important to get away. I think it's important to disconnect from your regular life. To invest some time in your relationship. The happier you are in your relationship, the happier you tend to be in other areas of your life.
You know what? I'm even going to say, I'll put it out there, that if we are able to do some giveaways, we will do it for that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to the Travel Blogger Show.
Keep an eye
open. If we get some good stuff, then we will pass it along.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to have to get some really good stuff. Hopefully we'll have as much swag as we did when we went to Blogger. Nothing but tickets.
Tickets, a cruise ship.
A cruise ship, things like that.
Yeah.
See, that's something that Cougar Mama should work on. A Mingle Media TV cruise where people can come and listen to us and we'll talk and all that good stuff and then be on a cruise.
That's right. Get on that. Work it. Yeah.
I like that idea.
Next week we'll be doing the whole travel thing. And
travel with coupledom.
Yes.
And it's couples travel, and it's about reconnecting and rekindling and having a good time.
No kids.
Just like, okay. Yeah. Because you have nothing better to do.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, aside from everything else you do. Go, handle it. So, that's good. Yeah. Lots to do.
So we will see you next week.
We will see you next week.
Thank you for talking about sex with us.
Yes. We enjoyed it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.